All right, Wayne Alaroot, War Now. Rockville, Maryland, Montgomery County Public Schools Superintendent Dr. Jack Smith has a rapist on his hands, an illegal alien rapist, and he's mad at the parents who are upset. Isn't that interesting? He's mad at the parents who are upset. I hope every person who listens to my show, wait till I'm national. You know, this is going to be fun because I'm going to bury people. I'm going to bury them. Can you imagine I'm in 100 cities and millions of people are listening and I give out the phone number of the superintendent of the Rockville schools and I ask every one of you to call and protest? Can you imagine what we'll do to the Rockville school system? We will crash their phone system for days on end until they fire their superintendent. The nerve of this louse. Can you imagine? Here's the story. The public outrage towards the illegal alien suspects accused of raping a 14-year-old freshman at Rockville High School, according to Montgomery County Public Schools Superintendent Dr. Jack Smith, is about the fact that the people who are complaining about the rape are racist and xenophobic. Racist and xenophobic. Well, of course. When I wrote that commentary 2 weeks ago that Governor Brian Sandoval is the worst Republican governor in America, never mentioned once in the whole column that he's Hispanic. I couldn't care less, never even thought about it. That was never even a thought. And some idiot moron sent me an email to me and everyone at the RJ that Wayne Root's a racist and he has to apologize to every Hispanic in America and to Governor Brian Sandoval and to every Hispanic organization because I'm a hateful racist. Even though the fact that Sandoval is Hispanic never even entered my mind. So when you criticize someone because they're Hispanic, that means you're a bad person. Oh, my God. This is amazing, the way liberals think. So a guy raped somebody, and you can't say something bad about the rapist because you must be racist and xenophobic. How sick are liberals? They're just mentally ill. They're mentally ill fruitcakes and snowflakes. There's something wrong with them. He's an illegal alien, the rapist, and he's a Rockville High School student named Sanchez Milian, and the other student is Jose Montano. And they're illegal aliens. And they forced the female victim into a bathroom stall on March 16th and proceeded to rape her orally, vaginally, and anally. Reaction to the alleged horror has been fierce. Maryland Republican Governor Larry Hogan, who must be a racist and xenophobic, slammed immigration enforcement and Montgomery County Public Schools in an interview. Why is an 18-year-old man in a class with a 13-year-old girls? Hogan asked. Good question. Why was his status not known to those folks? Why was he allowed to enter the country after he was picked up for illegally crossing the border? Both of them. Montgomery County residents' reaction was swift and harsh. And according to this Montgomery County Public School Superintendent Jack Smith, Dr. Jack Smith, of course, anybody with a doctor in front of their name who doesn't know anything about your heart, your brain, or your body means he's a super intellectual moron, book smart moron from a smart school who got a PhD in being a moron, knowing nothing about anything in the real world. So Dr. Smith says you're racially motivated if you have a harsh reaction. Well, I know this tragic incident, this is him talking, has become part of the national political dialogue. I want to remind community members that the lives of real students have forever been affected. While many have chosen to engage civilly in the conversation, far too many have crossed the line with racist, xenophobic calls and emails, Smith wrote. So I can't wait for April 10th once we're national, because I'm going to ask every one of you to bombard a moron like this, a racist who obviously hates anyone who isn't Hispanic. I'm going to ask you to go after this guy. And I mean go after him verbally. No one should ever physically go after anyone. Republicans and Tea Partiers and conservatives and Trump people never go after someone physically, only in self-defense. Never take the first shot. We don't do it. We can't do it. The media watches everything we do and say. We can only go after them verbally on the phone and shut their phone systems down and make sure thousands of you let Maryland County Public School Superintendent Dr. Jack Smith know how all of us feel about his comments. And JD, we're going to pick up in 1 sec. If JD's out there, I know he's online. While I'm while he's waiting, he's always listening. So I want to make sure JD knows. JD, you're the research guy. I'm going to ask you to look up the phone number for Montgomery County Public School Superintendent, Dr. Jack Smith. It's probably just a number for the Montgomery County Public School Administrative Office. And even though we're just Vegas right now, we're not nationwide, Vegas and Palm Springs, let's bombard their office anyway. Get me that number, and I will promise I'll give it out either later in the show or tomorrow when we go give this guy a piece of our mind. Jack Smith, Dr. Jack Smith. All right, JD, welcome to the show. Hope you were listening to what I had to say. You there, JD?
Yeah, Montgomery County in Maryland, right?
There you go. I know JD will be on it, and he will find it. He's my private eye, my super sleuth. He gets me anything I need to know. JD's on it, and we'll do that on the national show. You're my new super sleuth, JD.
Thank you, sir. Follow the breadcrumbs. Thank you for bringing up General Petraeus. I have forgotten about this in this whole shadow espionage of General Flynn and President-elect Trump and his staff, and possibly presidential candidate Trump. General Petraeus was turned in, his investigation supposedly by the FBI got started when a Tampa socialite woman went to the FBI and said she was getting threatening emails from some anonymous person. How that ever led to General Petraeus, the head of the CIA at the time, I could never figure out, nor did we ever get any interpretation from Mr. Comey, the head of the FBI at that time also. Mr. General Petraeus was too close to Benghazi. He knew too much about Benghazi. He had to be removed before he spilled the beans, and he was compromised with that investigation with his girlfriend. Go back a little further. You jogged my memory with Petraeus. What might have compromised Judge Roberts when he made the decision on Obamacare, changing the law in the courtroom to say it was a tax, not a whatever.
And by the way, wait. Let me remind you, JD. Brilliant thing to bring up. Brilliant dots to connect. How about this one? He didn't just change his vote at the last second after he'd already written the majority opinion against Obamacare, Justice Roberts did. Then he comes in and says, hold the presses, I've changed my mind. I'm going to change it to the majority opinion 5-4 in favor of Obamacare as a tax. But then he had to contort the situation, let me remind everyone, that Obama's legal representatives, his lawyers in front of the Supreme Court, made the argument that under no circumstances was Obamacare in any way a tax. And Justice Roberts went ahead and said, I'm approving it on the grounds that it's a tax. The most bizarre verbal gymnastics ever in the history of the United States Supreme Court. What did they have on him?
He contravened the Solicitor General for Obama in the courtroom. Yes.
Right.
Now take it to again, Mr. Trump, inartful. I've been wiretapped. Comment. Now take it to that extreme where they have everything they need. They are taping everything they need. But the proof is in the disclosures on General Flynn and President Trump talking to the Australian and the Mexican presidents, where his conversations were leaked the next day to those two presidents and were General Flynn's conversations with the Russian ambassador. That proves without a doubt that somebody was wiretapping, listening to President-elect Trump or presidential candidate Trump and anyone he came in contact with. Perry Mason would have no problem putting this together in 30 seconds. I mean, one commercial break, the show would be over.
Perry Mason, Columbo, and J.D. And those are my three heroes. So
now, am I not correct?
Yes.
Why isn't the Republican hierarchy? Why isn't Ryan? Why isn't McGonigal? We call him. We nickname McGonigal. McGonigal. You know, from Kentucky.
Yeah.
The senator from Kentucky. Why aren't they saying the same thing that Wayne Allen Root can figure out? JD can figure out, and Gary and all your smart listeners can figure out. I mean, this is step 1, 2, 3. I mean, the breadcrumbs are all there. Goldilocks is laying it out for us.
All right, JD, thank you. We're headed to an ad break. By the way, why not, along JD's reasoning, why can't they figure out what the ex-assistant FBI director has figured out? He's been on my show, James Kallstrom, former assistant FBI director during the President Bill Clinton administration, lashed out on the felonious intelligence community leaks, saying it's disgusting and disgraceful, and it's a fifth column embedded in government working against President Donald Trump. He said that on yesterday's 790 here in Vegas, but 9:70 a.m. in New York. They've got a talk show called The Cats Roundtable, and he was on, and he was talking about how he knows the FBI better than anyone in the world, and the FBI and the CIA and the NSA have become literally a fifth column working against the President of the United States. But somehow, some way, Paul Ryan doesn't know that. Mitch McConnell doesn't know that. None of them are defending Donald Trump. It's very clear that Donald Trump was spied on. I don't know whether the word is wiretapping, surveillance, spied on, whatever the right word is, they're listening to all of us. And that's so clear. And yet they call Trump a liar and fake news and a man who makes things up. And it's so disgusting. The Wall Street Journal had a commentary about it just last week where they ripped into Trump and said no one could tell the truth from fantasy anymore because of Donald Trump, really. And this all is because of him saying he was wiretapped. And now there's so many people in the know coming out and saying he was wiretapped or he was surveilled or he was spied on. Depends which definition you use. Donald Trump is right once again. But you're never going to see this on the 5:30 news tonight. You're not going to see it on the national evening news. You're only going to hear it right here at W.A.R. Now, and that's why you need to keep tuning in every day to W.A.R. Now. You get the truth here. They're giving out nothing but fake news. Wayne Allyn Root, 790 Talk Now in Vegas, 98.1 FM, Palm Springs, and, of course, April 10th, syndication all over the country. We spread real news in front of people who have only heard fake news till war appears. We'll be right back. All right, Dr. Jack Smith. Dr. Jack Smith, we're deep on your tail, buddy. You got a problem. We got Brady on the line. He's got Dr. Jack Smith's number, the superintendent of the Maryland school system, who thinks anyone who's mad at an Hispanic illegal rapist hates Hispanics. Well, sorry, buddy. That ain't the way it goes. We don't like illegals, and we don't like rapists. I couldn't care less that he's Hispanic. I have nothing against Hispanics. I love a nice legal Hispanic. I love an Hispanic business owner who votes Republican, my kind of guy or gal. So this is nonsense, but we're going to give him a piece of our mind. Brady, you got his number?
Yeah, the Dr. Jack Smith, who's the superintendent. That's
Yes.
the number you're looking for?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Montgomery School Public School System.
Okay.
The number is 301-309-6277.
Now everyone's going to have to wait till tomorrow. It's 7:30 at night. There'll be no one answering phones now. And by the way, when I give it tomorrow on the air, it'll be too late. School's closed by the time this opens at 3 at 6 p.m. on the East Coast. So you just got to take it down now and make a note to call tomorrow. Give him a piece of your mind. Brady was kind enough to find us that number, 301-309-6277. I get it right? 301-309-6277. And so that's the Montgomery County Public Schools Superintendent's Office, right?
Correct.
All right.
What I wanted to call in on, though, that the lady that's running in France,
Yes,
Le Pen.
Marie Le Pen, yeah.
Yeah, I actually love that lady. That is one. She's just like the Trump. I mean, she's just like Trumpster. And what I like about her, she knows that the European Union is going to fail, and the euro is going to also fail, not too far behind it. So when she had that meeting, I think it was last week with Putin, she's in the middle of her candidacy, running for the president of France. What if Trump would have sat down with Putin directly? Can you imagine what they would have come up with? The obstructionist. Here, this lady's meeting directly with him and shaking hands. I love it.
Yeah, the only thing I'm worried about is the fact that the guy in Netherlands, whose name escapes me for the second, I'm trying to remember his name, he was supposed to just win and pull an upset like Marie Le Pen and like Donald Trump and like Brexit. And he was the big the guy was pointing out how bad Islam is. And he was supposed to win major seats and take over leadership in their version of the parliament in Netherlands, and he lost. It was a big surprise because he was supposed to do really well, and he didn't. Of course, we don't know how fixed the voting is in a country like that. Who the hell knows what they do? But, so you don't know where Marie Le Pen's going to go. You just don't know whether or not, the polls now showing she's got a good chance are real or not when the guy in Netherlands fell short. And I felt really bad about that because I think his heart's in the right place. He's put up with a lifetime of agony. I don't know if anybody understands. By speaking out against Islam, he's the most hated man and the most death threats in the world. And so he has been in constant hiding for the last 8 years. He lives in constant hiding, surrounded by security officials with guns who are guarding his life. He cannot go anywhere without guards with guns, worried about his life, and can't sleep, I believe, in the same house more than 2 days in a row. That's what his life has become by being willing to speak out. I think his name is Gertz Wilders, or Wilders Gertz, Gertz Wilders, I think. So it's pretty scary stuff, and he was supposed to do well, and he didn't. So who knows if Le Pen will or not. Remember, the rest of the world isn't Americans. We propelled Donald Trump to victory, and the only place in the world that's even close to us is Britain, because, of course, all of us came originally from England. So Britain voted for Brexit, but the French are nothing like us, and the Dutch are nothing like us, and so you can't count on them, voting for a Trump-like message. Brady, thank you for the call. Thank you for giving us that number. We've got our guest, Autry Pruitt, on the line. He is a Fair Tax Board member, author of Planes, Steak, and Water, Defending Donald Trump, and he's an expert on health care. We've got Autry on the line. How are you, Autry? You're on with Wayne Allyn.
I'm doing well, Wayne. How are you doing?
Well, I'd be doing better if we had passed the Obamacare repeal, which we didn't. And I know your topic is health care reform and tax reform. And so I want to hear your take on what needs to be done. And, what's your uptake on what just happened late last week when we failed to pass? Is this Donald Trump's fault? Is this Paul Ryan's fault? I'm on record what I've said. I want to hear what you have to say. And what's the next step? What can we do next?
Well, so my take on it is this: in terms of whose fault was it, I put it squarely at the feet of the establishment. I believe that my guess is that Donald Trump turned over to Paul Ryan the specifics of healthcare. And once he turned over the specifics of healthcare, in other words, Donald Trump's a business guy. He gave a broad base of what he wanted to do, repeal and replace. He didn't want the mandates on the employers or the mandates on people. And other than that, he said, okay, Ryan, you're telling me you're the expert. I can't do everything. You work it out. And what Ryan failed to do, or I should say what he did, was overestimate his I think he believed his policy and wonkushness was going to carry through to the day, and it didn't. Because, and the bottom line is this: people were not going to believe that the government was going to do something 2 or 3 months later. They just weren't going to believe that. And Paul Ryan, I know he talked about budget reconciliation. I don't know if he even told Mr. Trump the budget reconciliation is in the U.S. Code. So they could have repealed that law. They could have actually repealed how reconciliation worked, thereby being able to get all of what they needed in the first passage of the bill. I mean, they wanted to do it in 2015 and 2014 and 2013. So that's my take. In terms of what's the way forward is for the conservatives to get in a room together and now come up with not only infrastructure and tax reform, but also do a care repeal and replacement. That's what their solution is. And
Autry, here's my
takeaways.
takeaways. I want to give you my takeaways. See what you say.
Yeah.
So, number one, I think that Donald Trump should play reality TV show host and producer, which he is. And he's the apprentice who doesn't understand government. And Paul Ryan is the biggest loser. And he needs to fire Paul Ryan as House Speaker because as far as I'm concerned, if Donald Trump's the CEO, gave the job to Ryan, and I agree with you, that's what happened. Donald Trump didn't get too involved. He rallied and he tried to support Paul Ryan, but he let Paul Ryan take the reins. Well, then if you name somebody your COO or president and you give them a job and they fail, they get fired or they get demoted.
Yeah.
So Paul Ryan should be fired, in my opinion.
I think there's two things. One, I agree with you. Two, I think Donald Trump's going to be hesitant to do that because I think as he's come in, he's starting to now understand, after what the courts have done to him, the respect that each branch of government needs to have for each other. I think that the old Donald Trump, prior to him being elected, would have been like, Paul Ryan, you need to go. But I think the new Donald Trump, if he does want Paul Ryan to go, may be more subtle about it because Trump has seen what happens when branches overstep their bounds.
And by the way, Donald Trump can't even fire him. He could say, I think you should step down. I demand you step down. But Paul Ryan doesn't have to listen. It's up to the Republican Congress to make Paul Ryan step down. You got to get enough votes to overcome him. That's all,
That's it, and it would be relatively easy. I mean, if Donald Trump basically went away from Paul Ryan in terms of speakership support, and he lost 30 or 40 people and couldn't get the majority for speakership, then that would be the case.
All right, but that was just. I just want to say, Autry, that was just my first takeaway, was that Paul Ryan should be fired. My second takeaway is that Donald Trump needs to not model Mitt Romney. He needs to model Donald Trump. He needs to be himself. And when he campaigned, he didn't campaign like a moderate, wishy-washy, kind of establishment Republican. He campaigned not like Mitt Romney, but like Donald Trump. And he needs to approach Obamacare like that, too. You're not a Paul Ryan Republican. Stop that.
Donald Trump's a deal maker, right? This is what I think was the case. Donald Trump's a deal maker. Everybody got behind the scenes, and basically Trump said, all right, you want to fix Obamacare, I'm going to let you have it. You want to do that first versus tax reform or infrastructure, which I'm sure Bannon and Priebus had to tell Trump it's better to do infrastructure and tax reform first. But I'm probably sure that was a backroom deal, that he made a deal with Paul Ryan. Okay, you're laying off my case, and I'm going to give you Obamacare. I'm going to turn that over to you, and I'm going to let you roll that out first, and I'm going to go for it and be 100% behind you. I think that's what happened.
And you know why it didn't work? And you know why it didn't work, Autry? Think how Obama passed Obamacare.
The same damn way.
No, but he handed out goodies. He gave goodies to everyone. So here's the press, right? If they hate you because you're a Republican, they'll never say this. But if it was a Democrat who tried to pass a bill and he didn't hand out bribes to every single congressman that opposed it to get them to switch their vote, they would say, see how principled Democrat Donald Trump is, right? But because it's Donald Trump and they hate him, they never point out that Obama bribed. Remember the Cornhusker kickback? He bribed all these guys to get them to vote. Donald Trump tried to do it the right way. He didn't give any bribes to anyone. He tried to shame them. That doesn't work in Congress at all. You can't shame them. They have no shame.
Yeah, I think what has to happen is I think Donald Trump has to return. President Trump has to return to a little bit of the rhetoric. He has to return to the notion of it's not just me, people, it's you. Because the president alone, you got me here, we can push for it, but you need about 30 to 40 to 50 people in the House and about 20 folks in the Senate that are committed to overturning the tables. That's what Donald Trump has sort of lost. And I'll be honest with you, Rance Priebus is not going to like this. Hope he's not listening. But I think he has to go. There's been nothing so far since the start of the administration that has given me confidence. Even conservative media, ignoring putting news out.
Hey, Autry, we're losing you. Hey, Autry, do me a favor. It's time for an ad break anyway. So can we get you on a landline? We got to get you on a landline because you're going in and out throughout this interview, I'm going to put you on.
I am.
Yeah. Let me put you on with Charlie, and you guys figure out what to do. When we come back, we'll talk about tax reform because that's equally important with Obamacare. And by the way, I don't think Trump is done. I think he's relentless, and I think he'll learn from this, and I think he'll pass the Obamacare repeal very quickly. I think a month from now we'll have it. Maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months, but he'll do it. He always learns, and he always comes back. Autry, hold on. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more with Autry Pruitt, author of Plain Steaks and Water, defending Donald J. Trump. Wayne Allyn, WAR Now. All right, Wayne Allyn, WAR Now. We're on with Autry Pruitt. Autry, are you there?
Yes, is this better? I'm
Yes.
hoping it's better.
Yes, it is. We got you. I hear you 100%.
I'm staying right by a door.
All right, loud and clear. So here's the thing.
Okay.
But the last thing I wanted to get in was just that I wrote the book, The Power of Relentless, and I think Donald Trump is Exhibit A. He's relentless, like any successful businessman, except he's better than all the rest of us. He's a billionaire. And so I think people who think he's down and out, I think he's got him right where he wants him. Let him have kind of underachievement in their mind. Oh, Donald can't do it. Donald's no good. Donald failed. Let them underappreciate him and undervalue him and underestimate him. And my guess is he comes roaring back with a deal a month from now where he picks off a few moderates and he picks off 1 or 2 Democrats and he actually picks off, 5 or 10 members of the Freedom Caucus and he passes Obamacare, and all the things that people thought were dead is suddenly done and back alive. And Donald Trump, turns lemons to lemonade and freaks them all out. That's what I think's going to happen.
You know what? And I think that's a safe. I think that's a safe prediction. Trump said all during the campaign he didn't care who it was, Democrats, Libertarians, Republican, whoever it was. If they wanted what he wanted and he could strike a deal, he would do that. So you're probably right, Wayne. You're probably right.
And that deal was not my ideal deal. I'm a real conservative. You ask me, I believe in the Rand Paul deal. That would have been the perfect deal for me. But that couldn't pass. There's no way that passes Congress. I agree. This was one that could pass. And the Freedom Caucus should be held responsible, as well as Paul Ryan, because they ruined the damn thing, and you had to repeal Obamacare. You had to. Coming out the gate, you had to, because you promised it for 7 years. So I think the people to blame are Trump, it's Paul Ryan, and it's even my friends in the Freedom Caucus who I believe really screwed this thing up. And it was a big mistake because they voted in favor of Obamacare by not agreeing to go along with this. That's a terrible decision to make, don't you think? Even though I'm a big conservative, it's not the right move.
I think it was. I don't think it was a mistake to oppose it. But what I do think they should have done is they should have gotten together and decided on 2 or 3 changes that they were willing to go with and get those changes.
Right. Well, that's my point. Yes.
Wholesale change, and it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah. No.
So that's
listen.
what they should have done. They should have taken 2 or 3 points.
Right. Autry, you always got to negotiate, and then you get your best deal you can, and then you go for it. That's all. And they got a lot of concessions. Remember, he made a huge concession. All the taxes were removed in 2018, next year, the Obamacare taxes.
Yeah.
They changed it to this year, retroactive to January 1st. So that was a huge win.
You're right.
They should have said,
okay,
right. You win, man. It's good. It's good enough. You know what my biggest argument is? I'm always a guy who starts, 100% what I want my way. But in the end, never let the perfect get in the way of the good. This was good.
Don't let the perfect become the enemy of the good.
Right. So how are we going to get around? How are we going to pass tax reform now, Autry? What's going to be on the table? What's in store in the future for getting taxes cut?
The tax reform plan that Donald Trump and some Republicans want, for me, is basically another rendition of income tax. In other words, even if you reduce it to 3 barriers, you're still keeping the IRS. It still can root around your private business. And basically, the roots aren't seeded so that when Democrats get elected, either in 2020 or in 2024, when they get elected and come to power, or maybe after that, because Democrats will be president again at some point. The seeds they'll just redo the brackets and add more discounts and add more subsidies. So that's going to be the challenge. We have an evasion problem. I don't know if you know this, but over 10 years, we actually lose enough in tax evasion every single year that could close the gap and then some on the budget deficit.
That's the underground economy. The underground economy.
Yeah, the solution I believe in is a national consumption tax. And what's really going to happen, Wayne, is that people are going to end up in a situation where they're going to be forced to start bringing out the Gestapo.
Well, you know what's funny?
Happen.
So, Autry, here's the deal. So I agree with you. I live in Nevada where we have only a consumption tax, right? I mean, there is no income tax. There's no personal. There's no business. They did pass an idiotic gross receipts tax for businesses, but that only starts at $4 million or more. So for all intents and purposes, there is no personal income tax. There is no business income tax. There is no capital gains tax in our state. There is no inheritance tax in our state. We have the 10th lowest property taxes in America. So we're a really good low-tax state. The only tax we've got in Nevada is sales tax, which is consumption tax. So I agree with you. I would like that.
Taxes at local level.
Yeah, but
right?
it's among the lowest in America. We're very low compared to no-tax states like Florida and Texas. I think their property taxes are twice as high as ours.
Oh, jeez.
So we're pretty good. We're pretty good.
It's horrible.
Where are you, in Florida?
Austin, Texas.
Ah, there we go. Yeah, very high property taxes.
It's highway robbery.
Right. So I mean, I like consumption tax. I like the Nevada model where you don't get taxed a dime on your income. You only get taxed on what you spend. I love that model. But my only point is, again, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. You know, when Donald Trump lowers taxes dramatically, let's grab it and say thank you. Don't fight him. So, negotiate. Try and get the best deal you can. But, geez, I'd be thrilled if my taxes went from 43.8 down to, say, 28 or even 33. That'd be a lot better than 43. So I'd say, yes, thank you. I'll take it. Just fight for the best deal you can get and then take the best tax cut that's on the table. That's the advice I give the GOP. You have a problem with that?
No, I do not have a problem with that because if you take the best deal now, you can still get a better deal in another year or after the 2018 election.
And I can join you in the fight for the fair tax. You know what I mean? I agree. Long term, we want a fair tax. I get it.
We do. Get the economy roaring. And once you start the economy off, we'll start that economy off roaring, you'll be able to get what you want. Because at that point, the masses won't even care.
Right. All right.
Be political about it, but they won't care.
All right. I agree. I mean, and that's how Donald gets his popularity back up, too. Don't worry about your popularity in the polls now. Just worry about passing your agenda. And when the economy rebounds, your poll numbers will automatically go up. Don't worry about being a popular guy. Make it go up because of what you pass. Audrey Pruitt, thank you for coming on. He is the author of Plain Steak and Water, Defending Donald Trump. You can get the book at Amazon or any fine bookstore. Thank you, Audrey. Great to have you on. All right, Wayne Allyn, War Now is the show, 790 Talk Now in Vegas, 98.1 FM in Palm Springs, and all over the country starting on April 10th. I look forward to it. I can't wait to get more of my friends listening to War Now. When we come back, your calls, phone number, toll-free nationwide, 844-WAR-NOW-1, 844-WAR-NOW-1. All right, Wayne Allyn, War Now. So, Charlie, this is our last segment of the 4 o'clock hour, right? We just have a straight through now, about 4 minutes or so. All right. I think it's interesting that, I've said this. I was the first guy in the country. I heard Michael Savage talking about it in the Savage Nation program before mine. When I came in and sat down and write some notes down, I heard Savage talking about it. But I was the first guy in the country who wrote it, that if you want to go after Trump for Russian connections, wait till you see what Hillary's campaign manager, John Podesta, has. I wrote it. I read you the commentary right here, and I believe I wrote it for the Las Vegas RJ, that, she's got her own Russian problems. If you want to start going after Russian problems, how many members of the Obama administration are collecting money from Russia? Are you kidding me? You're going to only single out Republicans, members of Trump's administration? Do you know how many members of Americans' political parties must be in bed with the Russians from the standpoint that they got stock, they got cash, they're consultants, they're being paid as political consultants? Who knows what various forms and nefarious forms of compensation have been given to many Democratic politicians? This isn't a Trump issue or a Trump problem. This isn't a Republican problem. So Savage was saying that John Podesta, Hillary's campaign manager, had 100,000 options, stock options, with a Russian company. And the company is owned partially by Putin. So here's a guy that was managing the campaign of Hillary for president, and he's got options in a company that's owned by Putin, partially owned by Putin. Are you kidding me? Well, that's what they're claiming, kind of, is the problem with the former Trump campaign manager for a very short period of time. So, if you're going to throw stones and you live in a glass house, you better be really careful, because Democrats have all the same problems. Now, I didn't even know about Podesta and his 100,000 stock options in a Russian company with Putin. At the time I wrote the commentary about 2 weeks ago, I said that Podesta's brother, Tony Podesta, had a consulting deal with SureBank, Russia's biggest bank, and he was collecting hundreds of thousands of dollars to lobby the United States government against sanctions on Russia and SureBank. And he's the brother of Hillary's campaign manager. I didn't know at the time that the campaign manager himself had business deals with Russia and had stock options in a Russian company that involved Vladimir Putin. So if you're going to start throwing stones, boy, Democrats better look out, because we're going to throw them right back. And you're going to have a problem here. I can't imagine how many Democrats out there, Democratic politicians and ex-politicians, former politicians, recovering addicted politicians, have consulting deals or lobbying deals involving Russia. But I'll bet the number is huge. Huge. Massive, massive number. When we get back, it's just about time for a news break. Speaking of the media out there and how horrible they are, how biased they are, how prejudiced they are, NBC News has signed a guy to give unbiased political commentary, and he's the former Obama press secretary, Josh Earnest. Can you imagine? It's not even possible to believe these things. And here's the thing. In a hilarious welcoming statement, the Today Show Savannah Guthrie warned Earnest he would now have to disavow himself of his political bias to provide impartial political analysis right before she invited him to take shots at President Donald Trump. These people are just in a dream world. They are delusional, or they really do, they either believe the Kool-Aid, the Obama Kool-Aid, or they know exactly what they're doing, and it's all a big charade, and it's a joke on all of us. I think it's a combination of the two. They're a bunch of criminals, a bunch of frauds, a bunch of creeps, a bunch of biased liberal commies is what they are. But somehow, I think a lot of them are delusional, and they really do believe in the media that they have the moral authority over us and that they're always honest and we're the biased ones. Wayne Allyn Root, War Now. It's a joke out there and it's a war out there, but with Wayne Allyn Root, you're in the driver's seat, baby. We're going to win it. Be right back. Win it. Be right back. Win it. Wayne Allyn Root, War Now. I have so many things that I get angry about and I rant about, but I also want to, I like to mix in good things. So here's a great story. Here's a heroic story. By the way, Wayne Allyn Root, War Now. 790 Talk Now in Vegas, 98.1 FM in Palm Springs, and all over the country starting on April 10th. National syndication beckons. Nice story. Double amputee Marine vet joins the New York Police Department. The wounded warrior is now a cop, and he'll be walking the beat on titanium legs. Mateus Ferreira, former U.S. Marine Corps Lance Corporal, who lost his legs below the knee when he stepped on a hidden explosive in Afghanistan in 2011, is joining a suburban New York Police Department. 28-year-old graduated Friday from the Suffolk County Police Academy on Long Island during 29 weeks, following 29 weeks of training. He's 6'1", 250-pound rookie. He passed all the physical training and other requirements just like any other recruit, including running a mile and a half in around 11 minutes. He begins patrols next week. I just really want to help people, said Ferreira, who emigrated to the U.S. from Uruguay as a child. I want to be involved in the community, and the police department definitely allows you to do that. He was on patrol in Afghanistan January 21, 2011, when he jumped off a roof in a compound suspected of being a Taliban outpost. And as soon as I landed, he said, I knew something was wrong because it was like a movie. I heard a noise and everything went black. A bomb had gone off beneath his legs, amputating both legs below the knee. I saw blood everywhere throughout my pants, he said. Evacuated to a local hospital within days back in the U.S., 3 months later wearing prosthetic legs. Up and walking in prosthetics and really starting my new life, he said. That new life has included many activities he never tried before the explosion, when he had legs. He's played on a softball team of wounded warriors. He scuba dives, skydives, snowboards, and rides a motorcycle. Raised in Georgia, he met his future wife, Tiffany, when his softball team, so keep in mind, he only joined the softball team after he lost his legs. So here he's a guy with no legs, and he meets his wife, Tiffany, when his softball team played a game on Long Island in 2012, and the couple now has a 2-year-old daughter. Good for him. Isn't that great? After working as a steam fitter, welding while hanging off bridges and overpasses, Ferrara decided to take the exam to become a police officer. Scored a perfect 100 and his fellow recruits later elected him class president. Is this guy great or what? Who would not want to hang out with this guy? You know, Obama has his beer summits. I know what I would do inside Obama's beer, but I would have a beer summit with this guy. This guy's great. Wow, would I love to hang out in a bar with this guy. Tell me his first name again. Mateus Ferreira. He has served this great country with outstanding distinction and will now serve and protect the residents of Suffolk County, said Police Commissioner Timothy Sini in a statement. Ferrara acknowledges the job will bring challenges, but approaches his new career with a sense of humor. He said he was once asked during academy training whether he has concerns about injuries, and he said, no, not really. If I break my leg, I go in the trunk and put on a new one. He lives by the motto, life without limbs is limitless. The only disability we have is the ones we make, he said. What a great guy. Can you imagine he came here from Uruguay and he fought for the United States, lost his legs for the United States, and now he's a cop for the United States, for you and I, for the people of America. Good man. What a great guy. They should put him on a poster, and they should just let him travel the country. You know, there's a guy I'd like to give government money to. I'd like to give him $1 million a year to be a poster boy to just show how great America is and how great legal immigrants are in the United States of America. Oh, yeah, I hate Hispanics. Yeah. The liberals say, oh, Wayne Rudy's a racist. He hates Hispanics. Really? This guy's Hispanic from Uruguay. I love him. This guy's so great. I'm not gay, but I'd marry him. That's how great this guy is. They don't come any greater than this guy. Every macho Republican male in the world loves this guy. We don't hate Hispanics. How ridiculous is that? I give everyone an equal and fair shot, but I definitely don't like illegals. And by the way, if the illegal's from Israel, and I'm Jewish, or Austria, or Australia, or Poland, I don't care. You're illegally in my country. You're a criminal. It just so happens most of them are from Mexico and Central America. That's not my fault. That's your fault. You're the ones who came to my country illegally. I didn't ask you to come. I didn't ask you to steal my taxpayer money by accepting food stamps and welfare and Medicaid and education and aid to dependent children and housing allowances and free meals at school. And don't forget Medicare and Obamacare. And how about earned income tax credits at the end of the year for people that didn't earn anything? You're stealing from us. I don't care that you're Mexican. I don't care that you're Honduran or El Salvadoran. I only care if you commit crimes. When you enter our country illegally, you committed a crime. When you take government checks, you committed a crime. And many of you, not all of you, just like Donald Trump, not all of you, many of you are committing vicious, heinous, violent crimes while in America. Many of you are in gangs from the time you're a little child, and you're coming across the border with tattoos all over your body, all the way up and through your face. Gang tattoos. And you make gang signs, and you murder people, and you bring drugs with you. That's not about being Hispanic. It's about being illegal. It's about being a criminal. Whereas this guy, this wonderful guy, Mateus Ferreira, former U.S. Marine who lost his legs fighting for America and now wants to be a cop, I love him. So how can I possibly hate Hispanics? Same thing I've always said about blacks. If I happen to love Ben Carson and love Herman Cain and love Condoleezza Rice, how am I racist? So in the end, it's not about the color of your skin. It's about the color of your brain matter. Gray. Are you a liberal? Are you a conservative? Do you have common sense? Are you pro-business, anti-business? Do you want to come here to accept welfare? Do you want to come here to work? That's what I love or hate. But I sure don't hate Mateus Ferreira. I think he's as great as any American in all of America. And he's from Uruguay. I don't care where he's from. He's American as apple pie. Here's the big problem, by the way, in the United States. In 24 states, 50% or more of the babies are born on Medicaid. New Mexico leads the nation with 72%. In 24 of the nation's 50 states, half the babies born during the latest year on record had their births paid for by Medicaid. Do you know what a birth costs? Does anybody understand? You're talking about $25,000 and $50,000 and $100,000 bills? New Mexico led all states with 72% of the babies born there in 2015 having their births covered by Medicaid. Arkansas ranked second with 67, Louisiana third with 65. 3 other states tied for fourth with 64% of the babies born there covered by Medicaid. How about this one, Vegas? Mississippi, Wisconsin, and Nevada. Our state tied for fourth. 64% of the babies born here covered by Medicaid. And you wonder why I'm against high taxes. You wonder why I want some of my frickin' money back. New Hampshire earned the distinction of having the smallest percentage of babies born on Medicaid. In that state, Medicaid paid for only 27%. Only. Still 1/3 of the babies, basically, paid for Medicaid. Virginia and Utah tied for next to last. However, according to KFF, which is the Kaiser Family Foundation, some of the nation's most populous states shared the distinction of having 50% of the babies born there on Medicaid. California, Florida, Illinois, 50% of all the babies born on Medicaid. New York, 51%. Ohio, 52%. Half the states were able to provide data for calendar year 2015. Other states provided data from 2013 or 2014. On average, states reported Medicaid pays for just over 47% of all babies born in the United States. That is just ridiculous. That is insane. Data was not available from Hawaii. Well, you know, Hawaii is a big liberal Democratic state. You know that one's well over that percentage. So Hawaii is going to be one of those states that over half are paid by Medicaid. Unbelievable. Just amazing. And you know that Obamacare has a lot to do with all of this. If you don't understand that, you're kidding yourself. You know, we extended Medicaid to thousands of previously uninsured low-income women with Obamacare. So Obamacare is the one that made sure that everybody is on Medicaid and everybody's having a baby on Medicaid. Research done at George Washington University and the March of Dimes determined in 2008, 40% of the births in the U.S. are covered by Medicaid. In 2009, 43%. By 2010, it had risen to 47.75. And by the way, this is no small amount of children. 1,805,000 babies births covered by Medicaid. Do you understand every one of those is like $25,000, $50,000 bills? That is just amazing. It all went up under Obama dramatically. Once again, in 2010, New Mexico led the nation, highest percentage of births on Medicaid. 57.5% of all babies born there had their births covered by Medicaid. But today, it's 72% in New Mexico. So from 2010 till now, what was in common? Barack Hussein Obama. He was president for all that time. When everybody realized I could run across the border and drop a baby in the United States and have the government pay for it. And all the people living in the United States who are American citizens realized, well, having a baby is expensive. I got to get the government to pay for it. I've had 4 kids, and government hasn't paid 1 cent on any of my 4 kids. You tell me how that's fair. When you talk about fairness and equality, you tell me how it's right that some people have 4 kids and they pay for all of it themselves, and some people have 8 kids and they want the government to pay for all 8. You tell me how that's fair, when at the end of the day, if I got no money left over, it's because I paid for everything myself. Well, everybody else gets everything paid for by the government, which is therefore being paid by my taxes. There's only one word to describe all of this. It's insanity, or it's lunacy. It's idiotic. It's just plain ignorance that's leading to all of this. That's leading to the destruction of the United States of America. Wayne Allyn, War Now. Thank God for guys like Mateus Ferreira, double amputee, joining the police force in Suffolk County. But you know what? Can't thank God for millions and 1.8 million babies born in the last year studied that were 100% of their bill was paid for by Medicaid by taxpayers like you and me. Just absolutely frustrating, absolutely ridiculous, and leading to the destruction of our great country and destruction of capitalism. You can't survive when everybody thinks they can pop out babies and ask you and me to pay for their mistake. Or maybe it's not a mistake. Their purposeful production of a baby so they could get another welfare check. Outrageous. Wayne Allyn, War Now. All right, Wayne Allyn. Trump still having failed for the moment on Obamacare, and I don't believe for a second he failed, period. I believe he failed for the moment. Sometime in the next 6 months and maybe even in the next 4 weeks, you will see him make a comeback and pass the repeal of Obamacare. But yet he still continues to churn out great executive orders. So what did Trump do moments ago? He signed a bill killing the Obama rule on public lands. President Trump signed a bill Monday that kills a federal rule dictating planning on public lands in western states, including 47.5 million acres in Nevada alone. There, the witness to signing was Humboldt County Commissioner Jim French, who fought the regulation imposed by the Obama administration in December. I was crystal clear there were things that were going to change dramatically, French told the RJ, the Review Journal, following the White House bill signing. Trump, who signed 3 bills Monday that were recently passed by the House and Senate, said he wanted to remove every job-killing regulation we could find. Conservationists and Democrats argued the Obama administration regulation known as Planning 2.0 rule protected Bureau of Land Management lands from commercial interests. All the GOP senators from western states, including Dean Heller, senator of Nevada, were co-sponsors of a resolution calling for the repeal of the regulation. The bill passed the Senate early this month. This was not an executive action. It passed the Senate on a 51-48 vote, and Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, Democrat in Nevada, voted against it. Of course she did. And the House of Representatives approved a similar resolution in February. Again, basically a party line vote. Mark Amodai of Nevada voted for it, and Representatives Ruben Kuhn, Jackie Rosen, and Dina Titus, all Nevada Democrats, voted against the resolution. So good stuff happening. It would have applied to the future use of all 245 million acres of public lands, 47 million of them in Nevada alone. Amazing. So good job, Donald Trump. Got to cheer for you. Let's give a positive hand here. Good things, good news, and you got to give people positive kudos when they do good things. So he failed with Obamacare only temporarily. That's like Trump's Muslim ban, they call it, right? It's a temporary ban. It's not permanent. Same thing with Obamacare. It was a temporary failure. I guarantee you he's coming back. Donald Trump turns lemons to lemonade. I guarantee you. All right, we got our guest on the line, Joseph Castleberry, president of Northwest University, author of The New Pilgrims, How Immigrants Are Renewing America's Faith and Values. And the topic is the Maryland school rape. And I assume, Joseph Castleberry, that you're talking about legal immigrants are doing good things for America's faith and values, but illegal immigrants are not. Is that right?
No, that's not the argument. The argument is that lots of immigrants in both categories of legal and illegal are doing a lot that helps the country out, and the book brings great attention to that. Of course, at the same time, you've got some incredibly heinous things like this rape case in Maryland, and obviously that's a bad thing, but that's not the big story on immigrants. Immigrants are doing great things in America.
But how could you ever tell me illegal immigrants are doing great things? First of all, they have no right to be here. They're criminals. You have no right, any more than I have a right to be in Mexico tomorrow. I can't just pick up and cross the border and move to Mexico. Look at that Marine, Tamarosi. He drove across the border by mistake into Mexico. He was arrested on the spot, and he spent months in prison where they tortured him and tied him to a bed with chains. How do you belong in America illegally and do a good thing for our country? What are they doing good illegally in America?
Well, there's an old saying, if you see a turtle sitting on a fence post, he didn't get there by himself. And the reality with illegal immigrants in America is for the last 30 years plus, we have not been honoring our own laws. We have not been serious about enforcing them, and we haven't been serious about changing the laws to match our realities. Back in the 50s, we had a guest worker program called the Bracero program, and immigrants would come to the United States, pick our crops, and then go home. We got rid of that. We didn't replace it, and it created a huge problem in the agricultural sector. And we just tolerated it. We let people come across the border illegally because we needed them, but we made no legal provision for them to be here. And that wandered over into the service sector, and pretty soon you've got 13 million or more illegal immigrants in the country who we need, who we couldn't get our crops picked without them. The service industries would be in grave trouble without them. We would be without, millions and millions of consumers if we got rid of them. And so we are not honoring our own laws. And because we haven't honored our laws, we've got a lot of people here in a subhuman legal condition. And we need to do something about it. I mean, I can't stand illegal immigration. I don't like it. I want a legal immigration system that actually fits America's needs and is good for those who come here.
Right. Well, I have no great argument with that. I just think we probably have a debate over what fits the needs. In other words, my argument has always been we certainly need some foreigners. I agree with the idea that some foreigners are needed for certain occupations, certain industries. But in general, I want people just like Australia does, just like New Zealand does, just like Canada does. You can only get in if A, it's an industry that needs you, or B, if you're talented, you're skilled, you got money, and you buy your way in. That's the kind of person I want in America. If you bring 500,000 with you, that's great. You're richer than me. Wonderful. Great. Let's take you. I don't want unskilled people who don't speak English. What good does that do to anybody? Except where you point out very well, by the way, Joseph Castleberry, very agreement on the fact that in certain industries like picking crops, if there's no one else to do it and you got no choice, then you desperately need those people to come in legally. They could go home or they could stay. They could very well get a work permit and stay.
Yeah, and at the same time, we've got 1 million software jobs right now going undone, code writers. We don't have the people to do those jobs. And we can't get the visas for people to come from overseas to do it because the visas for high-tech jobs like that are gone by February usually. We're just not giving it anywhere near enough visas to cover our needs on that. I would suggest that when we do the comprehensive reform, and we need a comprehensive reform, our laws are broken, they're not working, and we're not enforcing them, and we can't enforce them. We need this reform. Once we do it, I would suggest that we let the free market decide how many workers of different kinds we need. If an employer has posted a job for 6 months and no native-born American has shown up to take that job, why shouldn't they be able to get visas from the government to bring in workers to do those jobs? It creates a growing economy. Free market solutions always beat government solutions.
Well, I certainly agree with that statement. Free market solutions beat government solutions. My only argument, Joseph, is you're right if America wasn't a welfare state. My argument is you got millions of people, 107 million Americans on welfare. If you took that welfare away from healthy men who are sitting around on the street listening to their big box, listening to music and playing cards in the middle of the day, which I witnessed only weeks ago when I was jogging through Washington, D.C., 11 in the morning, it seemed like the entire town was out having a fun time playing cards in the middle of the street at 11 in the morning. They'd be doing those jobs. They could pick crops. They could clean people's toilets. They could wash dishes. Why is it only illegals from Mexico that could do those jobs when you have Americans on welfare? Get them off welfare and say you either starve or you take a menial job. I guarantee you a lot of them would take some, maybe not all, but some of those menial jobs that you say there are no Americans for. It's time to put Americans to work and get them off welfare.
Yeah, let's face the fact that we have got a serious malaise in America among certain populations. By the way, the white mortality rate has gone way up.
I know. I was talking about that. I know.
In the news just recently.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got a serious problem, and it's not just that there aren't jobs for people. It's the fact that there's so much obesity and diabetes and drug addiction and alcoholism and cirrhosis of the liver and all of these kinds of things that people have rendered themselves unable to work. And so, are you going to put an alcoholic off welfare and let him starve to death? I think that there's not a consensus for that in America. That is not something that is going to happen.
Well, I mean, is the consensus that someone should be on welfare for the rest of their lives and claim that they can't work when physically they can, but they say they have a disability like alcoholism or they have a bad back, which you can't prove? No x-ray will verify it?
It's a tricky problem, but in the meantime, immigrants are willing to work, and they do good work, and they work smart, and they prosper, and they become solid producing Americans.
All right, so let me ask you this. Let's see if we can find a little common ground. I'm interested in hearing your answer to this. I have written many commentaries where I say not only am I not anti-immigrant, only anti-illegal immigrant, but I'm also pro-immigrant because I think in many cases immigrants work harder than Americans and come here with a lot of hunger and a lot of values. But I want them to come here to work and not collect welfare or food stamps or Medicaid. So why can't we just say you're allowed to come in, but you can't accept welfare? Then I'm willing to let all the immigrants in. Great. God bless you.
Well, in fact, immigrants are not eligible for welfare. The only immigrants drawing welfare are immigrant children born in America. Aid to families of dependent
But there's
children.
a great asterisk to that, Joseph. It's a huge asterisk. This is where liberals and conservatives
Now, are
get
they
big
getting
debates.
government services?
Yes.
Are they getting government services?
Yes. Tremendous food stamps. Almost every illegal in this country knows they can get food stamps because there are ads in Spanish in Mexico advertising it, telling them, tell your relatives in America, even if you're illegally in the country, you qualify for food stamps. They're also getting free meals at school. They're getting a very valuable education, $20,000 per kid. They're getting free Medicaid. Tremendous amounts of money is going to illegals, not to mention police courts and jails, prison guards, etc. The costs are tremendous.
Two comments on that.
Sure.
First of all, we can solve that problem. It is a good thing to subsidize poor people because it's a good thing to subsidize working poor people because they work for low wages, they keep costs down for everyone. That is a deal we've already decided in America that people who are working at minimum wage, at the lowest level, they need a little extra help, and it's worth having them here. They create consumer spending. There's all kinds of things that they do that are positive for our future. They have kids. I mean, the children of poor people in America are often the most motivated kids to actually do something with their lives.
Hey,
It's not
Joseph,
that those
I
people are
just
worthless.
I
But the
just
other
had
thing
on the
is,
show
when
the
we
fact.
do the comprehensive reform, if you don't have a job, you don't get to stay.
Right. Well, that certainly you and I can agree on for sure. No question about that. I just think you're getting the story wrong when you say we've all agreed in America that it's okay to give lots of aid to poor people. Well, we've agreed to give that to American poor people. I don't agree to bring people in on purpose who from the first day they get here need aid. It just doesn't make sense. Obama imported 1 million Muslims into our country, most of whom didn't speak English. They need massive food stamps from the first day they get here in aid. Doesn't make sense. We're broke. We're $20 trillion in debt, and I just don't agree we need them. We need legal immigrants. We don't need people to come here to accept food stamps, and we don't need illegals, Joseph. That's where we disagree.
So let's fix the system and get back to square.
I'm with you. I just, when you say the new pilgrims in your book, I just go, pilgrims didn't collect welfare when they got here. That's the difference. Take away
Well,
welfare, and I'm all for it.
The new pilgrims in my book are the immigrants who are coming here and restoring our values and restoring faith in the country. And I'll tell you what, the great unreported story in America is the incredible religious revival that's happening in immigrant communities across the country. They are planting churches everywhere. And of course, with that, temples and mosques and other kinds of religious houses. But the big story is Christians, and they're planting churches everywhere. They're restoring the population of existing churches, and religion is good for America. It has been since the beginning. John Adams said that the United States Constitution was built for a religious people, and it will not work to govern any other kind. Immigrants are restoring our country's religious identity, and it's a beautiful thing to see.
Well, you and I will have agreements on a few things and disagreements on a few others. I don't doubt that they're restoring Christianity in the Christian churches. Lots of Catholics, lots of Hispanics, Mexican, Hondurans, El Salvadorans are going to church, and they just love the fact that the Pope says we should take care of them, we should give them welfare, we should not build walls. But in the end, there's a little bit of a scam there, because the church doesn't have to pay for all these people. They get money in the collection plate from these people, but they don't have to pay a dime of the welfare or the food stamps. So it's real easy to say, let someone move into your house when you don't have to pay the bill. And I think the Pope's guilty of saying wonderful things about illegal immigrants, because he thinks the nicer things he says, Joseph, the more they'll drop in the collection plate. But when they need welfare and food stamps, guess who won't be paying for it? The Catholic Church and the Pope. So there's a little bit of a scam going on there. But, okay, I do agree religion is good for America. I don't think we need to import Christians. I think we got plenty of them here. Maybe they ought to start, going to church themselves. Joseph Castleberry is the author.
Hey, let me send you a free copy of the book, Wayne, because the New Pilgrims, How Immigrants Are Renewing America's Faith and Values, you'll hear the whole argument.
I would love to hear the whole argument. He's the president of Northwest University. He's a good guy. Brave of him to come on the show. He's the author of The New Pilgrims, How Immigrants Are Renewing America's Faith and Values. We agree on a couple things. I don't think we agree on illegals or welfare, but we do agree that legal immigrants are really the lifeblood of America, as my grandparents were, and so many of you who are listening, but they came here legally and they weren't on welfare. Joseph, thank you. Hang on, we'll get a copy of the book. Hold on one sec. Wayne Allyn Root, War Now. When we return, your calls. 844-WAR-NOW-1. All right, Wayne Allyn Root. So that's the argument. There, you just had a firsthand view of how, liberal bleeding hearts see the whole compassionate for illegals argument. They're the new pilgrims. Did you hear that? That's the subtitle of his book. Immigrants are the new pilgrims. And I open up by saying, you mean legal immigrants are the new? No. That includes illegals. They're doing such wonderful things for America. And the values. Do you realize that liberals all have an interest in what they're saying? Do you realize that who do you think he thinks his market for his book is? He thinks he's going to sell, 100,000 books to Hispanics who go to Catholic churches, right? And he's going to sell it to liberal activists who love illegal immigrants. In other words, he's just making an argument that sells books. And he's a college, not even a professor, a president of a university. And that university gets tons of government aid and gives out tons of free scholarships to illegals. And then the illegals tell other illegal activists how wonderful he is, and he sells a few books. Do you understand? It's a big machine. It's all about selling to all the groups that you're writing about, illegals, Hispanics who are here illegally collecting 50 forms of welfare. But, they can't collect welfare. And they're here because there are no jobs that Americans would ever want. No, but if you cut them off of welfare and they were either going to starve or take the job, guess what? Americans would want those jobs. There'd be plenty of Americans lined up for those jobs. So, of course, there's an ad that no one answered for 6 months because as I went jogging on the streets of Washington and found out they were all in the street playing cards in the middle of the day. Of course, they're not answering any ads for jobs. They're really happy collecting their welfare and their food stamps and 50 other kinds of welfare. So, of course, you need to import people from Mexico to go do those jobs. But if you cut off the welfare, you wouldn't need them anymore, now would you? It's just a ridiculous argument. They're the new pilgrims, and they're going to church. It's the values. Oh, the values are so great. How about the value of the kid in the Rockville School District in Maryland, him and his partner who raped the girl so many different ways? How about that value? Orally, vaginally, and anally. Is that a value that we need to import into the United States of America? Oh, but of course, he was the one exception. He's the one and only Mexican rapist in all of the United States of America. Right. As Charlie says, that's the one you heard about. There's 12,000 behind him that you haven't even heard about. Of course there are. How about the entire Europe with a rape epidemic of Muslim refugees? Those are the ones you hear about. How many more of those aren't you hearing about? Women can't walk in the streets of Europe anymore. You can't walk anymore. God forbid you have high heels and a short dress on. Well, you're a slut. A Muslim has to rape you. You've just got to be raped because you're asking for it. It's so absurd because who hated that statement? That men saying if a woman's dressed sexy, she's asking for it. Liberal feminist women always said how horrible it is, how wrong it is. Well, of course it's wrong. But those liberal feminist women vote Democrat and they ask you to import more Muslims into America. Oh, my God. It's unbelievable. The same liberal women who said if a CEO has sex with a person who's under them, I don't mean physically under them, I mean works under them in a position of inferiority to your superiority, then that is automatically sexual harassment. That is taking advantage of a woman. But when Bill Clinton had sex with an intern literally under him, under the White House desk, they didn't care. Hypocrites. Same thing. God forbid men are aggressive and rape a woman. Feminists freak out. Men are all bad. But when a Muslim immigrant rapes women and says it's because they're wearing slutty clothes, they must be a slut. Oh, my God, they deserved it. They asked for it. The same Democrat women, liberal women, want to invite more of them in. Can you explain any of this other than mental illness? I can't. We've got JD on line 2 with, I think, a good phone number for us to get that school superintendent in Maryland who seems to think if you don't like your daughters being in a classroom at the age of 13 with a 19-year-old illegal alien, aggressive male who's going to rape them in several different ways, you're a racist if you don't like that. And we found a phone number, but I think you might have found a better one, JD?
That's correct. The chances of you reading that tripe when he sends you that book are slim and none.
No. You don't understand. I asked for the book because I like to know how liberals think so I could beat them in arguments. So it's not good. I'm ever going to like or enjoy a single word in it. It's because I like to hear their arguments so I could rip them to shreds, but in a nice, respectful way.
I heard enough of his tripe in the 10 minutes you had him on.
All right.
Gary gave you out the main number, which is just a recording.
Okay.
That's 301-309-6277, which I'm sure I'm not sure they'll answer it tomorrow. But there's another number, 301-230-3073, which you can call right now, and you can leave your message on the recording and tell them what a nice word you have to say about Dr. Jack Smith.
Yes,
which
Dr. Jack Smith. Thank you, JD.
Did.
Let's repeat that number. Hold on, JD. 301-230-3073. Dr. Jack Smith, the superintendent of Montgomery County Public Schools, who seems to think if you are a person whose children are in those schools and you are angry that an illegal was there who raped a nice little girl, you're probably a racist and you're xenophobic and you are all kinds of other wonderful terms that liberals love to use for anybody who actually sees something terrible happen and is willing to talk out about it. If the person's a minority, they are automatically racist and xenophobic. Amazing. 301-230-3073. 230-3073.
Your listeners could call that for perpetuity, I'm sure. Also, there's one other item that didn't get mentioned. Another 17-year-old girl that was beaten this is Rockville, Maryland. I'm familiar with Rockville, Maryland. This is an upscale, believe it or not, a heavily Jewish neighborhood. And this is the 17th largest school district in the country. And this Jack Smith, he was educated in Washington State at a college, I don't know, I never heard of the college, just some fly-by-night college. He got his doctorate probably from mail order. But another girl, 17 years old, was beaten. I don't know the time frame. It was recent, but that got no coverage to the parents or to the PTA. They sandbagged that one too.
Amazing. And by the way,
only people that knew about it were the family, I guess, and the family members.
Yeah. And by the way, just so you know, Dr. Jack Smith said Montgomery County residents' reaction was harsh and racially motivated. So when a white girl is raped by an Hispanic illegal, it's harsh and racially motivated to speak out that he shouldn't be in the school in the first place, especially being that he's 19 and he's in a classroom with 13 and 14-year-old girls. That's harsh and racially motivated. I don't get it. What if a white...
Do we really have to mention race or anything of that nature when you're talking about young girls being raped by anybody? I don't care what nationality it is. The poor girl has to go through the rest of her life with this thing because of these two people that shouldn't have been in this country. But this doctor has no sensitivity towards this young girl and her family, and this man, boy, I'd love to tie him up and do something to him.
There you go. But I would bring up race because I think it's important to state what would be the reaction of the country and liberals and Dr. Jack Smith with the PhD from the mail order company. What would be his reaction if a nice little black girl was raped by illegal white men in the country? Would there not be a nationwide outrage? Wouldn't Al Sharpton be there leading the protest? Wouldn't Jesse Jackson be charging racism? Wouldn't everybody be interested in how that white man illegally got in that school and in this country to rape, or a group of white men to gang rape that poor little black girl? And they'd be justified. They'd be absolutely right. But not because he's white, because a girl was raped and it's terrible. Why isn't it justified to argue the other way around if the perpetrator is Hispanic or black or person of color and the person who was raped is any color? As you said, white, orange, green, I don't care. It's just amazing.
What I can't understand is their talk. their not justification, their reasoning. There is nothing for the reasoning to. There's no way that these people should be exonerated from this crime. I mean, this is a crime against everybody, basically, and these liberals that keep pounding this into our heads that we have to be fair and we can't be racist because we speak up about it. We don't care what nationality it is. It's just that it happened to a young girl. It doesn't matter what her what you know what I'm trying to say.
JD, I'm with you, baby. We got to go to an ad break. We got to go.
Bye-bye.
Got to get into the last ads. Thank you. Thank you for doing the research. Thank you for getting this number. The number one more time, 301-230-3073. Register your displeasure with Dr. Jack Smith, Montgomery County Public School Superintendent. Wayne Allyn Root, War Now. All right, Wayne Allyn Root, last minute of the show. Hope you all enjoyed it. We had so many callers left on the line to end the show. I apologize for that. I wish we could have taken all your calls. But hold that thought and call us tomorrow. Call in the first hour tomorrow, the 3 o'clock hour, and I'll take your calls at the top of the hour to make up for ending the show today with so many of you left on hold. I love to take your calls. We go national. It'll be even more calls, and I'll always put an emphasis with the screener to take Vegas calls. My old buddies from Las Vegas, you all get through more than any other group in the country. Wayne Allyn Root, have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow. All the cops out there, be safe. You know we're praying for you and thinking about you. God bless.